The reference point will be 0,1. The domain will be all real numbers from negative infinite to positive infinite. The range will be all positive real numbers, so y greater than 0. The Chernobyl nuclear power station in the Soviet Union exploded on April 26, 1986. By the morning, physical devastation was revealed, but this wasn't the worst. Later, this disaster led to death and disease. It all began when the people in charge of the most important roles in the Chernobyl 4 reactor, the control room, was preparing a safety test on the reactor, which was a test demanded by Russia's atomic energy authorities and stems from the Cold War fear of being attacked. But two seniors started arguing about the level of power which is safe to begin the test. The boss of the test didn't follow the regulations demanded, 700 to 1000 megawatts. He wanted to do it at 200 megawatts. He believed there was less risk. However, winning the power down led to it dropping too far. There were 2 alarms of water shortage in the drum separators, and other stuff was happening in the reactant's core. Yet, none of the engineers knew it could cause an accident. Outside of the control room, anyone knew anything about what was going on. They started the test, and the power of the turbine was torn off as the turbine wound down. The pumps push less water through the reactor's core. More and more steam is generated from less and less water.
As the steam pressure rises, it spreads more to the pump. One of the workers stayed directly above the reactor's lid. I've noticed that the steam pressure inside the core is lifting the 350 kilo caps to the full roots out of their sockets. The reactor was having a power surge. Because of that, was pressured the emergency button to reduce power automatically. When it's activated, the reactors lower the bottom control to reduce power. In the reactor, the bottom roots were tipped with graphite, and in the short moment when graphite is first inserted into the reactor, the graphite leads to a surge in the power, not a reduction. After that, the power increased hundreds of times. The steam pressure at the reactor hotspot couldn't be contained. 50 control and full roots shafts are torn apart, causing the first explosion. One of the workers thought that the problem was the hydraulic blast, so he wanted to switch the setting to compensate, but then the second explosion happened. The explosion blasted around 50 tons of nuclear fuel into the atmosphere, 10 times Hiroshima. 700 tons of radioactive graphite are blown around the plant. Because of this, people in the neighborhood of Pripyat were evacuated from 2 p.m. the 27th April to Moscow. It was declared a 30-kilometer zone of exclusion, 160,000 kilometers square of pollution. Over 100,000 Soviet men and women were brought to contain the radioactive in the city. This caused around 10,000 cancers in Russia and 25,000 worldwide over a 70-year period.
Exponential growth is growth that increases at a constant rate. When growth becomes more rapid in relation to the growing total number, then it is exponential.
The function that models and represents the graph in the growth one is a times b to the x power, where b is bigger than 1. The decay one, it's the same, but b is less than 1. And here are the graphs.
Exponential decay describes the process of reducing an amount by a consistent percentage rate over a period of time.
The implication of using nuclear energy are the nuclear radiation accidents, impact on humans like disease as cancer and defects, radiation sickness, radiation in the environment.
We consider that nuclear energy is clean energy because of different studies that recognized institutions have made, such as the following. First of all, according to studies made by Stanford University, renewable energy is energy type that can regenerate and replenish itself indefinitely. On the other hand, nuclear energy is a result of heat generated through the fission process of atoms. Nuclear power plants, the heat to produce the steam is formed when atoms split apart. This is called fission. So the fission releases energy in the form of heat and neutrons. Then go on to heat other neutrons and the process is repeated. So these nuclear power plants use nuclear fission to create electricity, and their fuel is uranium, which, unlike solar power and wind energy, uranium is a non-renewable resource. Secondly, according to the Nuclear Energy Institute in America, says that nuclear energy is by far the largest clean air energy source and the only one that can produce large amounts of electricity around the clock.
We are aware there is a nuclear energy plant in Mexico located in Alto Lucero de Gutiérrez, Barrios, Veracruz. We think that it might not be the safest nuclear plant in the world since, according to experts, it's located in a seismic area and on a geological fault, and there have been some moments where the plant has been found in danger. Having a nuclear plant has its pros and cons, but it actually only produces 3% of the country's energy, and we believe it's not worth the risk. So we are not agree that there is a nuclear energy plant in our country. Chernobyl nuclear disaster could have been prevented because when the disaster occurred, the people managing the machinery, besides was in bad and unstable conditions, didn't follow the regulation established. So if they have noticed and reflect that they need to follow the regulation of the right end, this will not happen. When the explosion happened, it could be stopped in certain distance away from where it started. The spread of radiation could be maybe reduced by covering all around the explosion using lead material, according to scientists. However, it's almost impossible to stop radiation. That's why we think it could be prevented, but not in a specific way to stop radiation spread and its pollution. We think that the effects of the nuclear disaster did not reach Mexico because the effects of the radiation just affect near areas as Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, affecting especially the people and the environment. One of the environmental consequences was the water bodies were really affected by the radiation as being dropped some chemicals in the nearest rivers of the accident. In this way, fishes and other water animals were affected, having different disease, and this also affected to the people that ate those water animals.
It also affected to the animals that were near the disaster. Not every animal were damaged. It depends on the animal and the resistance in the radioactivity. But some of the animals were affected by the radiation, causing an increase of mortality and decrease of reproduction. The urban areas were also affected because some radioactive materials were deposited mostly on open surfaces, such as lawns, parks, roads, and building roofs, for instance, by contaminated rain. Since then, the surface contamination in urban areas has decreased because of the effects of the wind, rain, traffic, street washing, and cleanup. This accident also affected the forest around the area. One of the first damage was one called the Red Forest. It was called like this after the explosion because they got a red color after the accident. All this plant died because of the amount of radiation they received.
Pollution of water and forest particles can travel from the site of the disaster to water or forest and affect the life of animals in there. Also, fallout. Nuclear weapons produce radioactive dust that will fall from the sky near the area of the event, and this dust affect environments including food chains.
We feel that this affects all the world and not just nearby regions. The radioactive dust that fall can be moved by exporting things from that area, and also the pollution of water. There are many people that lack the access of clean water, and by being polluted, it will be harder to drink. A solution for this would be that they research how polluted are the areas. The company that causes pay by cleaning this and paying or helping the people that consume things from there.
Working like this was fun. It felt weird at first since some of us didn't know each other, and it's hard to tell whether we like it or not. It was kind of difficult because we all had different schedules, and it was tough to find a moment where we all could work together and agree on what to answer on the previous questions and the graph. What we like about working with teammates in this form was that since we had different teachers of all our perspectives were different, which was good as we complemented each other's answers and points of views. As a result, we think we did a good job.